I am so excited for the person that you guys are going to hear today. We have an incredible guest coming on. Now, this person has changed my life in ways that she doesn't even understand because we have been on the same trajectory for a while and she doesn't even know it. But I just knew that we were total alignment. And it's not a coincidence because she's a spiritual leader herself. But one of the very first events I did under my own name and my own business was at this beautiful woman's venue. So she does a lot of events and all of that. And for all my spiritual ladies out there, my spiritual baddies, the address of the venue was 333 particular street at the time. And so I remember at the time I had so much imposter syndrome. There was a lot of stuff going on for me personally and professionally. And I was actually pregnant at the time and I didn't even know it. And so it was incredible because I saw that number, I met Eva, and then it all just connected and came together. And that event was one of the most pivotal moments, both personally and professionally, in my business. So, before we get into it, I want to talk to Eva Kaszycki. She is today's guest, spiritual leader, entrepreneur, amazing person. So, Eva, welcome to Burnout to Brilliance.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that was an incredible introduction and such an honor to be here. So honored and so humbled.
Oh, we all love you. Your Australian fan base is still here, even though you've flown the coop. You've left us Brisbaneites for Bali. I mean, B2B. So, so tell us, for those who have been living under a rock, I mean, if you're in Australia or in Queensland and you don't know who Eva Kaszycki is, where have you been? But for those who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of a spiel, a little bit of your bio and your background?
Amazing. So this question always throws me because there's so much and I've got to condense it. And I'm like, well, which way do we start? So a little bit about who I am now. I am a wealth consciousness coach for leaders. I am an energy worker. I do Kundalini activation. I really work a lot in the esoteric realms to help leaders like yourself embody these new levels of consciousness. I live in this beautiful, beautiful mansion villa here in Bali, 360-degree views of rice fields. I am a single mom of three kids, very, very, very successfully divorced. I live heaven on earth today. I let money and allow money to flow like air so beautifully. I truly and utterly live my dream life. And it really takes my breath away and it almost brings me to tears because it is just so beautiful and it's such a blessing and an honor to be alive. But it never used to be like this. It never used to be this good. It never used to be this beautiful. Just like you, I feel that we've all sort of had these long, dark night of the souls. And I went through, I would say, about 33 years of hell on earth. And obviously there were glimpses of heaven on earth, but it was a really long slog for me. And it started very, very young from the age of 3 when I was molested right up until 30 when I almost died giving childbirth to my third and everything fell apart. My marriage fell apart. I had to get rid of everything. It was one of the biggest ego deaths I've ever been through in my life. And Spirit was like, you need to get rid of that beautiful venue, the office, the of 2 of my businesses, my staff, my marriage. And I just sort of looked at my life and I was like, okay, something really big's coming. What's the opposite of everything I have right now? And it was really around the fact that the opposite of being married was being divorced. The opposite of Australia was Bali. The opposite of having 3 businesses was starting all over from scratch again. And it was just literally burning my entire life to the ground. And it was painful. It was painful. When I left my ex-husband, I hit rock bottom back when I was 18 because I had a subconscious program when I was 18 and I was last single before I met my ex-husband that
Mhm.
when you're single, you're broke. And so that
Mm.
came on very, very strong. And so when I left him, everything went, overnight. I had expenses for the venue. I had staff messaging me going, can you afford to pay me? Like it was so intense. And I was having eviction notices for my penthouse apartment. And I had to just sit there in more pain than you could ever possibly imagine. And I knew the work. I knew that I had to embody a frequency that was more than my reality. And so every single day, with no money in my account, with not knowing whether I was going to be able to feed my kids or not, I was just walking along the river and I would just put my arms out to the sky and I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was able to activate this frequency that I didn't know at the time was called the Kundalini frequency. And about 8 years ago, during my Saturn return, I had a Kundalini awakening and I didn't even know about this Kundalini awakening. And through activating this frequency and sustaining this frequency, I was obviously having like a little bit like test driving a new frequency, a little bit like test driving a new consciousness. The money would come in, then it would sort of go out. The money would come and then I'd be like paying it back. And I was sort of getting ahead. And then it was just like this slow slog. But then eventually I had my lucky break because I just kept holding this frequency. And we were able to move to Bali, sold everything in Australia. Within a short period of time, I had more money in my bank account than I knew what to do with. All of my coaching programs were selling out because I just surrendered. And I never forget this one day. It would have been maybe 6 months after I moved to Bali. And I went to this island off the coast of Indonesia, and I'm sitting in the ocean and I'm all by myself and I'm bobbing up and down in the ocean. I've got all these people signing up to my program, multiple 5 figures just coming in really, really effortlessly. I've got a few of my TikTok videos going insanely viral, and I'm just sitting there in the ocean, popping up and down, just thinking, I spent so many years chasing this success, this level of success, but I didn't want any of it. All I wanted was my peace. And I just started crying. And it was just the most beautiful come to God, come to soul, come to universe, whatever you desire to call it, moment where I was just whole. And a lot of the work I teach is really around the fact that nothing is outside of us, it's all within us. And we're always chasing the illusion of what's outside of us. But anything that we desire on the external is needing to be activated on the internal. And that's why we desire it. And when we can activate that, the reflection will show it to us in the external. So, yes, that is
Yes.
that's in a nutshell.
And I feel like for anyone listening, of course, like starting the new year with these powerful messages is absolutely going to shift you. You know, your external is a reflection of your internal work. And, Eva is so incredible at that internal shifts and really tapping into belief systems. You're one of the first people ever that there's a lot of business coaches out there and they vary on the spectrum of like hustle culture to just sit back, relax, and it'll all come to you. But I feel that, one of the biggest things that you really embody is the more joy you have, the more fun you have, the more relaxed you are. Money gets to be easy, it gets to be fun. And you were one of the first people, I think the first person to introduced me to Ken Honda's work. Oh, is it Happy Money? Is that his book?
Yeah.
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 And I remember downloading the Audible after that. And that was really cool because that was just such a different concept. But if you haven't gathered from Eva already, one of the things I think is the most powerful in you and something that I try to teach my own clients about being a thought leader, being an industry leader, is that you just are who you are. So, again, funny story. So, I remember, I'm hosting this event at Eva's venue, and she just so happens to be there. And I actually was the last event she had at that venue before she closed up and talks about this whole big ego death. And little did I know, I was going through the exact same ego death a year or two later: separation with kids, losing my dream house, closing businesses. That's a weird, there's no such thing as coincidences, right? It was a weird synchronicity. But anyway, so I'm at this event, and one of my friends who came to support me, she's not that big into spirituality, right? So she comes along to this event. She meets Eva, and Eva's talking about female moon energy and how we're made up of 80% water. And my friend was probably giving her a look. And Eva just was like, this is what it is. And like, I'm going to educate the population, whether they're ready for it or not. You know what I mean? And I love that. And I think that's the thing with you, is that you know what you stand for and what you believe in, and you go far with it. And I think that's the thing, is that the people who love you, like myself, see that. And of course, there's going to be people who are like moon energy, or like relaxing into money, or money gets to be fun. Like, what the hell? And they're just not your people, right? But I'm curious, just before we move on, this sort of just being completely who you are, has that something that you've developed over time? Or again, was that part of your ego death? Or has there always just been a part of you where you're like, fuck it, this is what I say, this is what I want to do, take it or leave it?
That's a really, really, really great, really great question. And it's interesting because I really look at, consciousness, energy, effortless flow, how we can ride the waves of consciousness and the waves that are within us. For me, I look at life and death cycles. So obviously, when you go through a massive death, it's like the snake skins come off. You're a bit raw. And so stepping in and embodying your truth, it can sometimes feel a little bit uncomfortable, a bit wobbly. But once you get good at the life and death cycles, so the embodiment of, I've just gone through a death, but I'm standing into it. I'm doing this, but I'm standing into it. And you get really good at calibrating to the next version of self because you're good at energy jumping. Then it's not as scary. So obviously, many, many years ago, when I had a coach and she was like, you need to do a live about your dad molesting you. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I remember turning up with tears in my eyes, just bawling my eyes out. And I think that was the initiation to being unapologetic. And I feel that our soul has these initiations into certain things. And it's just about embodying it. You can't be unapologetic and then not constantly be unapologetic. You can't
Mm.
activate, the dark feminine energy and not be stepping into it constantly. And it is like every day I turn up and I get the channel from soul and I share that channel. I even wrote something this morning that I wouldn't have even written, a month ago, but it was just literally like, I don't have clients that hesitate. I'm not available for it. If you hesitate, you're not my client. I'm not available to coach you over the line. You either know or you don't know, because I'm here for the leaders and my medicine's very, very potent, and you wouldn't give strong medicine to a child. So I'm not going to be trying to talk you into something. It's just, you just know or you don't know. And so it's this constant up level. And even a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to write that post because it was just not in this potent dark feminine energy, which I've embodied now. So I feel that when you understand the life and death cycles, and you can see that when you're connected to your soul, you are just unapologetic. It doesn't matter what people think of you because the entire reality is you. So if you're in fear of the parts of you judging you, then you must heal judgment.
Mm. That is so powerful. Yeah, if everyone is you pushed out, it's just you fearing judgment of yourself, right? Oh, I'm getting like a little tingle because it just hit me in a way that I hadn't really heard it before. So that is really cool. Now, the way that I usually format my guest episodes is based on my 4R method, which is, first of all, we reflect. So we've already reflected on who you are and your potency. Then we're going to talk about your redefining moments and how and then your redesigning moments where you redesigned your life after that, and then sort of what you do to stay on track. So don't forget, for anyone listening or watching, make sure you stick around for Eva's tips around what are we going to do to be like Eva and stay like this in this energy towards the end. But before we move on to your redefining moment, you touched on something that I'm like, I cannot let this go because this just clicked something in my brain. You were saying right back when you were talking about being single, that you associated being single with being poor or like not having wealth. And again, that clicked something for me because I know personally this was part of the journey I've had to go through for the last 18 months, because I've gone through my separation and, having to let go of a house I worked really, really hard for, renovated the shit out of it, got it perfect. And then it's like, oh, we're going to take it away from you. Okay, thanks, universe. It was a painful lesson indeed. But what was interesting is that I've had to learn how to be okay with managing my own money, because growing up, my dad was the head of the household. And even though my mum tended to be a bit more of the breadwinner, he managed the money. And my parents managed money for me growing up. And then my husband managed money. Like I was never in control of money. I never even looked at the bank accounts. I earned it. I was like, yeah, put my money in the bank accounts, but I never had to hold it. And so that's been really interesting because even admittedly with my own businesses, I've had my highest cash months and I've had my lowest cash months. And I'm still sort of on that journey of managing my frequency without a man being associated with finances. So that is super powerful. Is that something that you see as a pattern with a lot of women of us sort of defaulting to the men in our lives around finances or wealth or money or even that masculine energy? Do you think you could just talk on that before we move forward?
Yeah, I love this question. And because there's so many pieces that are coming through. One is when we're looking at consciousness and we're looking at patterns and evolution, our parents, they started the pattern of women need to be fully dependent to their husbands because that is the masculine energy. So it just coming through crazy. So the masculine energy I see is the money. And so we were sort of in this hole with the man and the feminine. We fully embodied the feminine energy. And so therefore the masculine could support us through the feminine energy. However, as we've evolved our consciousness into a paradigm where women are now working and embodying the masculine energy a lot more than being fully in the feminine, which is just receiving. We have to revolutionize how we embody in a healthy manner the masculine and the feminine within us. And so, obviously, for women, because we have a 28-day cycle, we're going
Mhm.
through fluctuations in our cycle. So, naturally, the energetics of who we are reflects on the physical plane. And I find more for women that it's okay to not be as consistent. It's okay to allow the flow. Obviously, when you have the belief that money comes like this as a constant, just like air, and through this, I can receive, I can be in my embodied feminine and the flow, then it's really beautiful. But it's not beating ourselves up as where we are literally the rule breakers for this whole new paradigm. We're rewriting a whole new paradigm that our ancestors never, ever created. And it's like the learning, it's like a child learning how to walk. It is getting this right, and it's trying to embody the healthy masculine and the feminine flow. And I truly believe that the embodiment of the feminine in a really healthy way allows the money to flow through. The thing that really helps me is the dark feminine energy. I feel like the dark feminine energy is really potent because we're staying more dominantly in the feminine energy, but we just have this badass within us that you mentioned earlier, which is literally just, I get to have it now. It's done. Unapologetic. I don't care. It's just done. Whereas the little girl within us, and it is like maturing from the little girl Snow White energy into the Maleficent energy, and being able to
Mm.
sort of know when to embody both sides of it, but really just being understanding that you can't run a business in Snow White energy. You can only do it for 10 minutes. You can be fun. And I definitely have a lot of Snow White energy. Like I love life. I'm so connected to how beautiful it is, but I'm deeply embodied. And if you get close to me or if you try to cross a boundary, I'm not available for it. And I have a very, very strong dark feminine energy where it is literally just like, I'm not available for that. Everything gets to go my way. Everything works out. Everything moves really, really, really beautifully. And I'm not available for anything less. And
Mhm.
so it's loving yourself as you're embodying, because what you're doing is you're calibrating to a stronger archetype where you don't need to be dependent on somebody, but you are able to really not be in the wounded masculine, because a lot of women are running businesses in the wounded masculine energy and they're hustling. And, as this whole podcast, and I'm sure you've spoken about this before, we burn out in the wounded masculine energy. It's the I need success because
Mm.
I'm not enough. And it's just like, no, you
Mm.
are enough. You get to have it all. You don't need to hustle and kill yourself, but you do need to turn up.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. As you're saying that, what's really interesting, and I'm not sure if I shared all the details on the podcast. Let me just have a sip of water. Mm. So I think I might have shared this last year. And again, it's just coming to me because we're talking and I've been really listening, Eva, to when things come in, I'm trusting it's coming from someplace. I used to question these thoughts, and now I'm like, it's coming from somewhere. So that's good. Um, well, last year I did my first breath work, and I went in having no idea. I thought it was just going to be like meditative breathing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I've done that before, box breathing, whatever. And I ended up being shot out into the universe, and the sun was my boyfriend, and I was the moon. I had the most intense visualizations. And for those listening, if you've never done breath work, it actually can induce DMT, which is like the miracle molecule. Anyway, I did not know that. So I basically had the hallucinations of someone who's on DMT, but it was naturally induced, like they used to do. And so as you're saying this, I'm sort of feeling into it of like it's almost like we should allow the universe, the world to take care of us. You know, like if we are really in our dark feminine, the world will take care of us. And we don't have to look at it as masculine or a man necessarily, but it's like if we are who we are, we will be taken care of. So I think that's really powerful. So I know we could go on so many tangents, but I want to get to redefining moments. So this is the second R of my 4R formula where we really look at, things that we need to redefine in our life. And for this podcast, I'd love to know. Usually it's a moment we talk about, something that really changed your life, like a moment where you really had to ask yourself, what do I actually want? And usually that could be burnout or a medical issue or, again, life separation. So motherhood. So I'd love to know for you, what was that redefining moment? And it could be one of many, but a redefining moment that really changed your life and your perspective forever.
Mm. It's a really, really good question. And it's interesting because when I look back at my life and look at all there were just so many. There were so many. And I honestly think that's why I've quantum leaped so fast, because when those moments come up, I move really quickly. There were a lot. I sort of look at life like the journey of the ego. Your ego goes and creates everything. And then you've got to go through the biggest ego death of your life. And the ego death is, a lot of people are too afraid to go through this death. What you and I have gone through is huge. It takes a lot to leave the marriage, leave the house. Like it's not an easy journey. And most people will sign up with me and they may not even be ready for it yet, but they know, their soul knows that there's something in them, because in order for you to have something you've never had, you have to become someone you've never been, and that means death. And most people are afraid of death. So in terms of defining moments, I think the biggest shift I've ever had in my life was obviously the ego death before Bali. And it was quite challenging because I knew I had to leave my husband, but I was pregnant. And so I just sort of held it out. And the interesting thing is that my son, his name's Archie Arrow Neal. And I never thought anything of the name Archie. And his cousin's like, Archer Arrow. And I was like, oh my gosh, he was the arrow that pulled me in to projectile launch me forward.
Oh,
Yeah, so beautiful. And since moving to Bali, everything sort of changed, because I feel like you have two lives. You have the life of the ego, and then you have the life of the soul. And when you step into the life of the soul, it is really effortless. It is really easy. Things just come really, really beautifully. I'm detached. I make so much money and I don't care. I really don't care. I love money. I respect money, but I'm not attached to the 3D. I don't care how things manifest, how it goes. I am just having the best time, because the real reality is your consciousness. It's the internal. And the thing I always teach my clients is when they desire it, it's done. Like it's why out of the 7.5 billion soul fractals of you would you have that desire? It's because it's chosen you to be birthed through you. And most people doubt it and they think, oh, it shouldn't be. And it's like, it just is. If you desire the private jet, it's yours. That's what your soul's chosen you, because to the universe, the feather's the same as $1,000,000. But we're so caught up in all of the energetic charges we have on all these things. We've got so much energy towards $1,000,000 versus a feather because of conditioning. And when we
mhm.
remove all that conditioning, we can truly have everything that we desire. And it's interesting that you were talking about the breath work, because I would say Like now I really just do energy work because the shifts are phenomenal, and things like breath work and somatic release. And with like, I do a facilitator for Kundalini activation, which is insane. It's the feminine, which I love because you just lay there and receive, but activating that Kundalini energy is just a game changer. Like I really feel, and she is the dark feminine. She is that energy that's just unapologetic. She's that energy where you're just larger than life and you get to have it all and more. And I think what people don't realize is that it's all stuck in the body. Everything's stuck in the body. And if we're not doing things to remove it from the body is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is what manifests the entire reality. So if we're not moving blocks from our body, then it's harder to go to the next chapter. It's harder to activate new levels of being. And I think as we're moving to this new earth, it's effortless, it's easy, there's no more negativity, it's effortless flow. And effortless flow is the highest possible timeline. When it's hard, it's out of alignment, because when it's on the highest possible timeline, you are the goal. So it's right there. You don't have to do anything to get it. You are the goal. And so you're just embodied in all that you are, and you're not chasing anything because it's all within you. So why would you chase something when it's all within you?
Yeah. And something that I would love to get your opinion on around just around some of this, because I think as we redefine ourselves and we get onto the redesigning of our lives and all of that, something you mentioned was around detachment. And again, that's something that I still work on now, but it's been something I've been easier to let come over the last few years, the more inner work that I've done. But it's something that my clients still struggle with. So I'll give you an example of so I received some free plane tickets and I got to stay in this incredible multi-million dollar mansion. Like it rents out for like 100 grand a week or whatever, right? I got to stay there for free. But how it came in wasn't how I wanted it to come in. So it came in, it got offered to me, but it wasn't through my business. And that's I've received so many incredible things, and things have just manifested for me, but not in the how. You know how we have to let go of the how and detach? I think that's something that I continually have to consciously work on. Like it's not natural. Like I want the money to come from here, but it's actually coming from over here. But regardless, I'm having impact. I feel good. It's nice for it to come in. I just have to let go of how I wanted it to. So, do you think you can talk more about, let's say a woman is in business or she's in her career and she wants things to go a certain way, yet everything she wants is still going to happen for her. It's just going to come in through X and not A. Can you talk about how we can be okay with that and like sit with that and sort of learn how to detach a bit more?
Yeah, so you'll love this answer. So the how is a wound. It's like the wounded child trying to be safe. It's like I've got to know
Mm.
exactly how it's going to manifest, because if I don't know how, then I lose control. And when we just, because all we need to do is hold the vibration of the solution. That is all we ever need to do. It's just this. Thank you. You do everything else. That's the feminine. The masculine's trying to control, and it's a wounded masculine energy. So I need to know how, instead of universe, you do everything. This is so fun. I'm enjoying my life because my consciousness is so delicious. I don't care about how it comes, just let it come. And it is the art, especially a lot of women that are in business. This is the art of delegation. This is the art of just, it's done. It's done. It's just the energy of you decide and it's done. Who cares how it comes to you? It just gets to come. Let the universe perform miracles to come to you. And when it comes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, what we have to understand is that the thing that we desire is on a different level of consciousness from where we are now. So we're thinking down here, but the goal or the solution is here. And so we can't see how we're thinking to get there because it's illogical.
Mm.
The universe works from chaos. Messy makes you millions. It has to be messy. You don't care how it comes. And when we try to make everything perfect, we get stuck. It's just like, who cares? It's recently I channeled an offering, and I was at a kid's playground and I just sat there and the channel came through and I was like, whoa, quickly went to Stripe, soul aligned price, created the price, just did a post, put the price up there. People signed up and I was like, okay, people need this offer. Just sent it to my team, got them to set up the sales page, the emails, like all the automated stuff. But it's just not getting stuck, because we have to think logically. We have to think, well, what if the $1 million turned up right now? And who cares where it comes from? What if someone just gave me a holiday right now from someone I've never met? Like, it doesn't matter where it comes from, but you get the holiday, and it's the embodiment of the thing. When we're stuck in the how, it's, well, I'm not enough if it doesn't manifest like this. I need to know everything that's happening, otherwise I'm going to lose control. And it's just like, no, when you're riding the wave, you're not yelling at the wave, telling it how high to go. You're just riding it.
Mm. You have blown my mind. I know I am definitely going to go on TikTok and create some content about this, because I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, for those who are watching, you can probably see I'm like looking down here and there because I'm like writing some notes. But the two things I've written down, first of all, how is a wound? I knew as soon as you're like, Sheena, you're going to love this. I was like, yes, I do, because that is so good. Because, so before I sort of became the burnout expert, I really sort of positioned myself as the anxiety and burnout expert. And anxiety comes from, I need predictability. And that's why, OCD is the extreme form of anxiety, because if I control everything, I create predictability. And if I can predict what's going to happen, I feel safe. And that is just coming from, as you say, a wound of, I feel unsafe. I don't trust myself. I don't trust people. I don't trust the world. So when it comes from whether it's a manifestation place, a psychological space, if you're constantly like, how is this going to work? How is this going to happen? How is this going to come in? I can totally see how that is linked to, I don't feel safe for myself, from others, from where. And I think it's a great indicator of, well, what's unhealed here, right? So I think that's so powerful. And messy makes you millions. I think that is really good, because you would know this from working with your own clients. I've been guilty of it of myself, is like, when you just, sometimes if you're in a weird space with money or clients or whatever, you're like, if I just create this thing perfectly, or if I make it look better, sound better, messaging's better, it'll sell more, whatever. And sometimes it's like I know, same thing again, no sales page, no anything. Just one time I had this idea of, oh, some of my clients need clarity calls leading into the new year. Created it, sold it on my stories, had my first $4,000 day. Like, and it blew my mind, because it was almost like intuitive. Like you're saying, like it was like, I'm letting go of the how. I'm just going to go with what feels good. Completely detached. If people buy it, great. If they don't, took me 2 seconds to create it. And that offer sold more than other offers that I spent months creating, recording videos, like sales pages, you name it. So I think that just remembering that, everything's figure outable. You can make a sales page later, like test it out. So I love that. So let's get into the redesign. If both for yourself and others as well, obviously you had to go through this ego death, right? So you're talking about this redefining moment, like you're closing businesses, you're leaving your husband, you're moving countries, you're letting go of staff, of people, of friends, of family, of old identities even. How did you start to redesign your life and redesign you? Tell me about that.
I love this question, because it's our consciousness 100%. So I just kept following the call of my soul when it made no sense. That is all I did. I spent a lot of time alone. I I do the work, but it's inner work, and I always do the work. I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Bali, I walked into a cafe and I had social anxiety. So I was like, okay, I wrote down a list of 13 places in Bali I wanted to see. And every single week I went to one of these places on my scooter, which I taught myself how to ride when I moved to Bali. And I just went by myself and I spent all this time alone, just constantly seeing things within me. I see everything. I'm calling in a future, well, my husband right now, and I can feel his energy. I've already activated it. I've embodied it. We have to remember that the physical reality is old news. You can be in the consciousness of having the millions and it can still not show up in the physical reality, because the physical reality is the last place for it to manifest. So I will notice when I go to places, my mind will trick me and go, oh, he could be here. Oh, he could be there. That's a wound, because it's the child trying to control instead of, universe, you deal with this. It is okay. He will come when he is ready. I am in no rush. I am embodied in the energetics of having everything that I desire and more. And when we doubt it and when we look for it, we're in lower frequencies, we're in the wounds. And so, because I'm very, very spiritual, I'm very, very esoteric, I'm very tapped in, I'm very clairvoyant, very psychic, all the things, I'll notice that, and you may notice this in your life, you'll have these symbols that come through and it will almost be like an embodiment. Spirit will guide me to where I need to go. So I'll have periods where I remember one day my son turned on Memoirs of a Geisha, weirdest thing for an 11-year-old to turn on. And my soul, and I walked past and my ego was like, let's not. And then my soul just pulled me down on the couch and I was like, whoa. And I'm like sitting there and I'm activating these geisha codes and I'm eating my food like really prim and proper and just embodying this geisha energy. And then I'd go through phases of the dark feminine energy and it would pull me in, and then the teacher would appear on YouTube or wherever it was, and it would be like a month of that, and then I embody it, I activate it, and I move very quickly in the sense that when I get the identity, the symbol, like I work with a lot of spirit animals, so I'll get the cheetah energy and then I'll embody that cheetah energy because I'm staying in tune with it. So for me, I focus on the embodiment of the thing that I need to be in order to unlock the desire within me. I'm not so much focused on, oh my gosh, I need all this money or I need all this. It's like, I know it's done. Every time I think about it, I'm like, it's just done. It's done. It's already done. I don't have anything to worry about. It's already manifested in the fifth dimension. And my only job is to calibrate my physical body, because the physical body is so dense and that's where everything's stored. And so you'll have moments. The other day when I rode my scooter into this restaurant, I left it on the front. Now, this is a very expensive restaurant, and the lady's like, the parking's over there. I just handed her my keys. I'm like, thank you, you can move it. And I don't do this from a bitchy energy. This is the dark feminine energy where there's a valet standing right there. An empath, a wounded empath in me would have said, oh my gosh, I'll go move my scooter. And I would have been all flighty. And I'm like, no, this whole reality is me. I embody the dark feminine energy. They went to move it effortlessly because that's their job. I'm a guest in their restaurant. And so we notice these up levels because you have to understand that the version of you that's doing multiple $1 million months is not going to be flustered and go and move their scooter. We're embodying these versions that are the energetics of the things that we desire. And so the version of you that needs to be the leader that helps all these people needs to act like a leader. They're not going to be flustered and going to move a scooter. They're going to be the leader. Thank you will move it for me, because they're good at delegating. And that embodiment comes across every area of their entire life. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and how you turn up every single day in anything that you do, whether it's a cafe, whether it's with your kids. If one of my kids says something mean to me, I will just go, no, I am not available for that. I would not let my children, I will not let my friends speak to me like that. So you will not. And you just have this energetic signature all across your reality. And once the embodiment has happened, it is done. Now, this is where a lot of people get stuck when it comes to money. When the money comes in, they get all excited. They're like, oh my gosh, I've made so much money. And they've already gone back to the lower level of consciousness, this little girl or boy energy, instead of thank you. Thank you. Send love to your clients, gratitude, but you don't get excited. You stay in an embodied energy until you get to the amount that you desire. So it's just, of course, of course, of course, of course, because the version of you that is making what they desire, they're not getting all excited about amounts that are beneath what they desire. They're just staying in the energy of course, I'd make $10,000 days. Of course. And if their body starts to get a little bit like, oh my God, it's like transmute that, do breath work, do Kundalini, whatever you need to do, somatic body release, breathing, meditation, get rid of it. And then come back to the embodied version of self, which is Of course, I'd make $10,000 plus days. Of course, this would happen. And we don't sort of lose ourselves, because when our energy is going up, down, up, down, up, down, you're not embodied. The way that it manifests is through embodiment. So it's deeply being embodied in what it is that you desire, not through the constant little girl energy. Because if you're a little girl and you've just given a little girl $1 million, a little girl doesn't know how to manage it, but a queen does. And so you need to embody the queen energy, because you are showing the universe that everything that is coming, you are of an energetic capacity to hold it, because you are embodied.
Well, and what's really interesting about that is a lot of this sounds like I attract, I don't chase. So even that analogy you said at the beginning of where you went to the restaurant and there's a part of you that wants to chase of my man could be here, that person could be here, but actually the attraction is actually, but I know that we'll find each other. He's coming to me. It's inevitable. And so I think something I want to admit that I find really refreshing with you is I follow a lot of business coaches and mentors and spiritual people on Instagram and all the places, Facebook, whatever. And and I know that you're, a wealth consciousness coach, not a business coach, but what I love about the way that you are on social media is it does feel like, hey, I'm here, guys. I'm ready to work with you when you are. It doesn't feel pushy. Like it doesn't, there's a lot of other business coaches where it's like, you got to buy today. There's only 2 spots left. This and like it's very pushy, like you're constantly being sold to. And I get like that works for them. That's making them money. That's great. But it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm being chased. And what do we feel when we feel chased? We feel threatened, right? Where you have this energy of like, I know I'm going to go to her retreat soon. I'm no like it's just a knowing, like you're pulling me in naturally. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if anybody's told you that before, because the things that you do for free, like your lives and your content, feels genuine too. Like it feels like I'm genuinely here to serve. It doesn't feel like sales content per se. Do you know what I'm saying? You picking up what I'm putting down?
I'll tell you exactly why you feel that. It's because I only operate from soul, not ego. So when I send an offer to someone, I always do this. And I think this is very important if you run a business. I say, close your eyes and tune into this offer. If it feels intuitively pulled and it's pulling you in, then it's for you. If it's not, I don't want to work with you. And it's because I am a Sherpa for their soul. I am not an egoic person that needs to, I don't need the sale. The money is always going to come. It always supports me. I don't need to limit myself and think that, because it's the how again. It's thinking, well, I have to get my money from you. And we have been so conditioned. And as a human design projector, I'm here for the new way. I'm here to write a path that hasn't been written before. And it's very important that I do things completely different to everyone else. And I don't want to work with anybody that is buying from me because of ego, because they won't get the transformation. They'll look at it all the wrong way. Their soul isn't ready. I know my medicine. I'm an energy worker. So people constantly quantum leap when they come into my world. And I do not want somebody that's not ready for that, because imagine if you gave all this gold to somebody that wasn't ready to hold it, they would get buried in the ground. And it's really important that we all understand our medicine and know that no two people are the same. You can't copy and paste a soul. There's no two people on the planet that are the same. And if I don't feel bad if clients go to someone else, I'm like, they just weren't ready for the up level. And also I feel we have a responsibility as leaders, because we're constantly growing and evolving. And so people that can't keep up with that growth and evolution, they'll fall to the wayside. Or the thing that I desire not to manifest is people come and work with me, they have the huge quantum leap and then they can't hold it. And so their soul needs to be ready for the transformation, because when their soul's ready, the mind, body, and soul, everything will just click into place so beautifully, and they will have the massive change, instead of signing up because of ego and then going back to rock bottom because they haven't really calibrated. And my medicine, people come to me when they've done all the inner work and they're ready for heaven on earth. I help them unlock that frequency. And the hardest thing about them coming into that is they have to remember that it's not hard. They have to remember that it's really effortless. And when you've had a whole life of struggle, of hard times, of insane chaos, it's really hard to embody the effortless frequency. And I know that's why my soul put me on my trajectory, because I have embodied it. I have gone through hell and back and been able to hustle and turn up and do all those things and reach burnout and all the crazy things, and then embody this frequency. And so I just never, ever, ever want to work with anybody that isn't signing up because their soul has said that. And I will always check in with every single human that ever signs up to any one of my programs. And even if there's sales links right before they pay, it says, please close your eyes and tune into this offer. And I just do not want it. Just, yeah. And I think this also helps us know that there's more than enough, because a lot of people are thinking that money comes from people. It doesn't come from people. Money does not come from people. People are just the vessels in which it can show up through. Money just comes when you're an energetic match to it, regardless.
Incredible, incredible. I love all of that. And I think if I can try and summarize that, when it comes to redesigning your life, or for anyone listening who could take tips from Eva around this, I think it's just, yeah, being intuitive and listening to both the small and big drives and not knowing where they're taking you. So like you're saying, it's like when you got to Bali, you went through all this massive shit beforehand. You get there, and then all you did was like make a list of places you want to go. And you're like, I'm going to teach myself how to ride a scooter. How that links to money, how that links to business, how that links to motherhood. Who knows? But you were just following, that's my intuition, and I'm just going to follow this. And I think it's really important for anyone listening to know that it doesn't have to make sense. But if you're feeling pulled towards something, there's a reason for that. So I really love that. I think that's really spectacular in getting pulled. So finally, our fourth area is the realign. So my fourth thing in my signature framework is always like, okay, once we've done all of this work, how do we stay in this kind of zone, or what strategies do we use? So for yourself, Eva, or when you're working with clients and they're going through this and all of that, how do we stay calibrated to a higher frequency? Or, if we're going through a dip, or we receive it and then we're unable to hold it, what can we do to build up our resilience? Or, what tips would you be giving to people?
Obviously, I'm biased in this area because I am an energy worker and I do work with Kundalini activation. So for me, activating that Kundalini frequency or doing something like breath work, realizing that everything's energy. And so the most important thing is to keep your energy clean. When your energy is clean and you are not like, you're treating yourself like a professional athlete. So for me, health is wealth. I inject peptides every day. I take insane vitamins. I go to the ice bath and sauna. I walk on the beach every morning to ground myself into nature. Like, I really take my health seriously. So I would say it's easy to calibrate when you look after yourself like a professional athlete, because your energy's clean. You realize that food is medicine. And I'm not someone that even, you know, talks about holistic health, but this is just how I look after myself. And when you realize that you are the most powerful and most important person in your reality, you look after yourself like a king or a queen. And when you are taking care of yourself through a place of deep self-love, you just know that you're not available for low vibrational thoughts. You just know that you're not available to fall back. And when you do, because you love yourself so much, you don't beat yourself up. I'm not available to beat myself up. So what I lay on the couch one afternoon because I'm exhausted, rest is a growth strategy. Amazing. I love myself because I'm just doing what I feel called to do. And it's really just always doing everything from a deep place of love and not beating yourself up, because you're always where you're meant to be. The entire reality is you. You're just in a playground of you, exploring you. And when you realize that there are no bad parts of you and there are no good parts of you, there's just you and it's all you, and you don't need to judge you, you'll always get there because it's effortless. I have had more success in the last 2 years moving to Bali by just simply not caring. I just do what I desire when I desire. If I want to go to an island, I go to an island. I'm going to write my book. I literally just go, hey guys, I'm going to go hang out at this villa for a few days to write my book. If you want to join me, come join me. Everyone just comes. And so it's just this, how can I live my life that lights me up? And it's not a hard question to ask yourself, to just go, if today was my last day on earth, how would I live it? And if it's not how you're living it today, stop, change it,
Mm.
do what lights you up. If you're doing what you're doing to get paid, stop. That's not soul aligned. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be effortless. It's meant to be easy. Yes, people get stuck when I say this because they don't understand that sometimes there can be fear and discomfort because the snake skin's coming off. Death comes with discomfort, but it's effortless. When it's really heavy and icky and it feels like shouldn't be there, you shouldn't be there. That's 100% right. Listen to your body. But when it feels a little bit uncomfortable, it's because your ego is dying and there's so many layers that you've been holding on to for so many years, so many past lives, however you like to look at it. And the more that you can simply just love yourself, once all these ego layers go, it gets really fun and really easy. And I think it's important to remember that the new earth is effortless. It's effortless flow. The more we play, the more we dance, the more that we just let go of everything. We take life so seriously. And that's the how, making it so seriously. It's just like, man, I get to go to an island and get paid to be on the island. Easy. I decided that. So that's what happens. I get to do this. So I get to have that. It's just effortless. I feel like going on a hot air balloon today. So I'm just going to go book it in. And then all these things come up. Oh, but I don't have the money, but I've got to look after the kids. It's like transmute, transmute, transmute. Thank you.
Incredible, incredible. I feel like I still have about a million more questions, but I'm mindful that you have given us so much already. Thank you so much for being with us, Eva. And so, if people want to find you, if they want to work with you, if they want to binge your content, because I'm sure they're going to want to after listening to our chat today, and especially for my spiritual baddies who are listening, Eva is even way further along than what I even talk about publicly. So, where can people find you? How can they work with you? Where are the places we need to link?
Amazing. So wherever you feel called, I'm everywhere and anywhere. I have an 888. I have my favorite place for most people is to come into my free group, which is the 888 Wealth Codes. So that's where I do all my lives. And then I've got a YouTube as well, a podcast, and Instagram if you want to send me a DM, TikTok. I sort of hang out everywhere. I think my favorite place to be is Instagram still. But yeah, if you want to sort of be in on the action, the 888 Wealth Codes group is definitely the best place to come and hang. And it is a really beautiful community.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm in that group, and every now and again I'll just be flicking Facebook and it's like, great, Eva's live, and there'll just be some little nugget or some little metaphor that you drop and you read the comments and it's like, Eva, you just blew my mind today, and it's like a Tuesday morning or whatever. And it's so fun. And I think that's the thing. It's like you're not ready for spiritual enlightenment sometimes on a Tuesday morning between meetings, but that's kind of what the vibe is over there in that group. So, I will put all of these links in the show notes below. Thank you so much again for being here. And what a kickstart to 2025 to have Eva Kaszycki on our podcast. So, thank you again. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and I will see you on the next episode of Burnout to Brilliance.